Hey folks, this is Riker with a gaming news wrap-up video where we discuss the happenings of the week. This week's topics include the latest Diablo 4 news, including more details and concerns over the paid battle pass, an overview of the Server Slam beta patch notes, some quick non-Diablo news highlights, and more. As always, discussion timestamps can be found in the description below. But right before you skip ahead, just a quick reminder to ring that sub notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes and stay up to date with gaming news highlights. Now before I move on, just a quick word from this video's sponsor, NordVPN. A VPN is an important tool for keeping your data secure and encrypted on the internet. And I don't dare connect to public Wi-Fi without first enabling my VPN. Be it on a phone or a laptop, whether I'm in an airport or at a cafe, I turn on my protection before connecting to that public Wi-Fi. Because you never know who may be snooping around trying to steal your personal data, because that Wi-Fi network named Cafe Free Wi-Fi can actually be anyone using their phone as a Wi-Fi hotspot to trick you into connecting to them. Turn on your VPN, and now your data is getting encrypted before going out. You can also use a VPN to get around region block content by picking a server in a different country. And NordVPN has over 5,400 servers in 59 different countries. And it's so user-friendly that you're basically one click away from hiding your IP or browsing the web from a different country. And one account lets you connect up to 6 devices, be they computers, phones, tablets, you name it. So take control of your internet experience today with NordVPN. And with my code, every purchase of a 2-year plan will receive a huge discount plus 4 bonus months for free. The best deal you can get on NordVPN is with my URL. Just go to nordvpn.com/Riker. And it's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/RHYKKER, or click the link in the description below. Starting with some Diablo 4 news. We had this week the last Diablo dev livestream before launch. I have a video summarizing the stream right here, and the devs also released a blog post that gave a couple more details. For example, the blog post spoke about platinum currency. This was not mentioned during the stream. Basically, rather than directly buy things with money, you'll use a premium currency called platinum to buy things in the cosmetic shop. You either earn platinum currency through the premium battle pass, which you have to pay for, and I'm assuming you'll also be able to directly buy platinum. 1,000 platinum is equal to $9.99 US dollars, and that's how much the premium battle pass will cost. The accelerated battle pass, which adds a 20-tier skip plus special cosmetic, will cost 2,800 platinum, or $24.99. So what this also means is that instead of spending the platinum that you get through the battle pass on cosmetics, you can choose to save the platinum you earn through that battle pass to spend on next season's battle pass. And according to Rod Ferguson on Twitter, you will not be able to earn enough platinum in one season to completely pay for next season's battle pass. And this is a shame. I know some games reward very dedicated players who fully complete the battle pass with just enough currency to pay for the next season's battle pass. But you really need to put the hours in to fully complete the battle pass. It'd be nice if, for reaching level 100 for instance, you'd get enough to fully pay for the premium battle pass of next season. I mean, if you're playing the game that much, and you're the type to spend money on the battle pass to begin with, then you'll likely be spending at least $10 every season on cosmetics anyway. So this is just something that would help with player retention by incentivizing players to keep pushing for 100, and then continue on next season to enjoy the premium battle pass that they earned through play. Now, one topic discussed during the live stream did lead to some questions: the 20-tier skip on the advanced battle pass. Within the first 20 tiers of the battle pass, you can unlock something called Smoldering Ashes, which you can spend on season blessings, which grant buffs to XP gain and gold gain. But there are no Smoldering Ashes locked behind a paywall. All players can access the same amount of Smoldering Ashes whether they pay for the battle pass or not. However, you do unlock the Smoldering Ashes at certain levels on the Battle Pass track, certain tiers rather. And the Advanced Battle Pass lets you skip 20 tiers. So you'd think, well, then people can pay to get these Smoldering Ashes before other players, thus getting an early advantage. That's why the devs then locked these Smoldering Ashes behind a level requirement. So even if you are a fresh level 1 character who buys the Advanced Battle Pass and jumps to Battle Pass Tier 20, you cannot use those Smoldering Ashes that you've unlocked until you reach character level 10 and then 20 or 25, whatever it is. So some people have wondered, will paid players be able to reach level 10 before free players can reach tier 15 on the battle pass? Because if they can, then they still get an advantage by buying the battle pass. Buy the battle pass still takes time to unlock the smoldering ashes, but if you can unlock them faster than free players, it's still an advantage. So to this, the community lead Adam Fletcher replied on Twitter, quote, "We aren't selling power. That is the philosophy of the game and team. If anything comes up like an edge case where it would be possible, that would mean it isn't working as intended, and we would immediately resolve it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it." He elsewhere added, quote, "The way the team has balanced it is that players should reach the battle pass tier around the same time as the level. If we find that there is some off balance, we will adjust. Never will we allow anyone to pay to win their way. That will never change." So basically, if somehow players find a way to buy the battle pass and hit level 10 before free battle pass players can hit the battle pass tier needed to unlock the ashes, then Blizzard will rebalance things as soon as possible. I do find it unfortunate that these systems exist in such a way that people have to ask these questions, that there's a lot of confusion and constant clarifications need to be made to assuage people's concerns. From the moment the Battle Pass was first revealed, it was always clear to me that having a monetization system exist adjacent to a power-related system of progression would invariably lead to certain assumptions and misunderstandings. It feels like the devs wanted to have a season journey that acted more like a free battle pass. Basically, just an improved version of Diablo 3's season journey, which lets you complete objectives to acquire some early character power, because that part of a battle pass is great design. Take away the monetization, the cosmetics. This is strictly an improvement on Diablo 3's season journey. Here are a series of specific objectives that you can complete on a deterministic path towards unlocking more power in a game that is otherwise very open and letting you do whatever you want. More direction and clear objectives can greatly aid player retention for some types of players. But then they also needed to add a paid battle pass, and I guess it just didn't make sense to have two entirely different things that are both basically battle passes. You'd have some objectives that contribute to the free pass, some that contribute to the paid pass, and I guess it just seemed more efficient to combine them into one Frankenstein battle pass. All I know is that I'm sure this is not going to be the end of this discussion, because no matter how much the devs insist that there will be no pay to win, a lot of people are simply unwilling to extend the necessary charity to Blizzard in 2023 to just take them at their word. It's going to be, oh, they didn't use this specific language, therefore they left themselves a loophole to add this form of pay to win. And if that doesn't happen, well then there won't be pay to win at launch, but they've designed the system so that they can add pay to win in the future. And if it's not that, then well, it doesn't matter what they promise, the executives can force them to add pay to win at any time. And yeah, ultimately yeah, if Bobby Kotick comes down and says, insert pay to win or I'll fire you and replace you with someone who will, then yeah, pay to win will be introduced into the game and there's literally nothing that anyone can do about it. For now, I think we just need to extend charity to this team of people, this Diablo 4 team, who you can't just group in with other Blizzard teams. This team who have never lied to us, never misled us yet, who have continued to insist beyond any reasonably expected level how much they will not put pay to win in the game. I think it's fair to extend charity to them until they give us reason to mistrust them. You can't just say Blizzard has lied to us before. Blizzard is not a monolith. This is a new game from a new team. Now, speaking of the 20-tier skip, on Twitter, Adam Fletcher confirmed that you don't have to spend your 20-tier skip in Season 1. You can save it for a future season. So if you intend to play the hell out of Season 1 and expect to not need to use your skip, you can save it for a season in which you may be busier. And as a reminder, folks, the Diablo 4 server slam is currently ongoing and will end tomorrow at noon Pacific. Ashava's first spawn will be today at 9 AM Pacific, and she'll spawn every 3 hours. Ashava deals a lot of poison damage, so be sure to stack up on poison resistance gear before the fight. You should also craft and pop a poison resistance elixir before the fight. Amethysts in your armor, I believe, give you resistance to damage over time effects as well, so that'll help. And remember, you can do Ashava on World Tier 1. In fact, once you hit level 20, you may as well drop the difficulty to World Tier 1, because you have no more benefit of being on World Tier 2. I mean, okay, sorry, you get more gold, but you don't get more drops. You don't get more magic find. So if you want to quickly farm up gear for that Ashava fight, once you're 20, drop it to World Tier 1. You're going to get drops faster because you're killing monsters faster. And remember, in the fight, her butt is the safest place to be. Now, if you want a full map of the beta area with all the altars of Lilith and dungeons, spoiler warning, I'll pop it up on screen here. Close your eyes if you don't want to see it, and I'll tell you when it's safe to open them. Here's the map, courtesy of Redditor PM me dank peens. Alright, map is gone, you can open your eyes. And if you're wondering about what specifically has changed since last beta, not about the map specifically, but about just the patch notes, the balance changes, WoW had data mined the patch notes and made this wonderfully formatted write-up. And we'll just go through some highlights here. So barbarians have received a flat 10% passive damage reduction buff, but to compensate, some of the skill tree passives have had their damage reduction effects reduced. Now overall, this is a buff to barbarians. Normally, to get that damage reduction, you'd have to spend skill points in a specific way on certain skills, either active or passive. Now you're overall just tougher as a baseline, and so you don't need to invest those points into toughness in order to feel as tough as you previously were. So you can instead spend those on more damage skills. Then a bit more granularly, Enhanced Bash now grants 10% base life as Fortify with one-handed weapons, or 20% with two-handed weapons. What is Fortify, you may ask? It's a mechanic in D4 that grants damage reduction. Basically, you gain Fortify, and if your Fortify amount ever exceeds your current life, then you are fortified and you take 10% less damage. So with this change, with a two-handed weapon, you only need to attack about 5 times before you become fortified and gain that 10% damage reduction. Then Furious Whirlwind got a significant buff, now dealing 40% of its base damage rather than 20% as bleed damage. Enhanced Double Swing now generates much more fury. Furious Upheaval got a massive nerf. This was a skill that was one-shotting bosses in the previous beta, so a nerf was warranted. Instead of being able to stack an 80% damage buff, you can now only get a 30% buff. Enhanced Ironskin's damage absorb barrier got doubled. The war cries and shouts and their supporting passives have generally been nerfed quite a bit. They were overperforming in the previous beta. Kick had its lucky hit chance reduced from 100% to 40%. That's pretty significant. Lucky hit is a mechanic that can trigger special legendary powers. Having a 100% chance to trigger is big. Leap got its lucky hit chance doubled from 33% to 66%. The Tough as Nails Thorns passive got nerfed. It went from increasing your thorns by 60% at max level to only 9%. But then it applies an additional 10% of your thorns damage rather than just 1%. So I know this is confusing to some people. They're trying to figure out, is this really a nerf? You know, the second thing is getting increased by a factor of 10. This is still a nerf, a significant one at that. Let's say you have 100 thorns. Then in the past, you'd have 160 thorns plus 1.6 extra damage. Now you'd have 109 thorns plus 10.9 extra damage, which comes out to about 25% less damage total. Thorns Barbarians were performing very well, so a nerf is understandable. We had footage of people just standing there doing nothing and monsters are dying. And with this change to increasing the amount of damage on the secondary effect, it's moving more damage onto bleed, which opens up more opportunities for synergy with bleed builds. For the Druid, the Fortify on Fierce Earth Strike was doubled to 4%, and the Fortify on Enhanced Maul was doubled to 2%. Wild Maul's chance to knock down enemies was increased from 10 to 20%. Landslide got a significant damage nerf. It was one of the Druid's strongest skills. Tornado's lucky hit chance got gutted from 33% down to only 8%. Lightning Storm got a nice damage buff, dealing 32% damage rather than 25%. Shred got a dash added to it. This is fantastic. I was asking for more gap closing powers for melee builds. But Enhanced Shred got its healing nerfed from 2% down to 1%. Cyclone Armor got its damage reduction nerfed from 20% to 10%, though its active damage was doubled from 15% to 30%, and its crowd control duration was doubled to 2 seconds, so it makes it more of an offensive skill. Debilitating Roar got its damage reduction buffed from 50% to 70%. So overall, so far we're seeing some nice buffs to the shapeshifting builds. Poison Creeper, which I think used to be called Vine Creeper, has had its damage massively buffed, tripled in fact, from 15% to 45% damage. Wolves' active damage was similarly buffed from 35% to 110% damage. Ravens also had their damage buffed from 85% to 160% damage, almost double. So overall, Pet Druid, the Zoo Druid, got huge buffs, and the pets are actually pretty damn good now, is what I hear. Enhanced Trample got a huge damage buff, combined with a base damage buff to Trample, which makes this mobility skill a significant nuke. Then Boulder had its lucky hit chance nerfed from 20% down to 4%. The ultimates had their cooldowns reduced, but a number of Druid passives got nerfed. Notably the passive that increases the spirit generation of basic skills. In fairness though, a lot of the Druid generators had their spirit generation buffed, so to run the math, previously the Abundance passive could generate 30% more spirit, now it's been nerfed down to only 18%. So Earth Spike in the past generated 8 spirit, plus 30% equals 10.4 spirit. Now it generates a baseline of 10 spirit, plus 18% brings us to 11.8 spirit, so that's a buff. Claw used to generate 9 spirit, plus 30% that's 11.7. Now it generates 10 spirit, plus 18% that's 11.8. Tiny buff. Storm Spike though has actually been nerfed. It used to generate 15 spirit, now it's been dropped down to 14 as part of a general FU to Storm Druids this patch. Maul generated 11 spirit before, plus 30 that's 14.3. Now it generates a baseline of 14, plus 18% is 16.54, a nice buff. So overall, everyone but Storm Druids have had their generation buffed, while pure Storm Druids got a nerf to their generation. Then for Sorcerer, Enhanced Spark had its chance to hit additional targets doubled, from 20% to 40%. Enhanced Ice Shards similarly had a massive 40% chance to ricochet to another enemy, up from only 15%. This really opens up some possibilities. Frozen Orb's lucky hit chance got gutted from 20% down to 4%. Incinerate's lucky hit chance was nerfed while its damage and mana cost was buffed. Charged Bolts was buffed with a lower mana cost and more damage, plus buffed damage on enhanced charged bolts. This was an underutilized skill in the lightning build, so that's nice to see. Chain lightning damage was nerfed, and chains to only 5 enemies instead of 6. Plus, its single target damage was significantly nerfed from an extra 25% damage down to only 10%. Chain lightning was overperforming last beta, so this makes sense. Ice armor got a significant nerf to its defense. It's been cut in half, basically. Frost Nova's cooldown was significantly raised from 15 to 24 seconds, and the freeze duration was increased from 2 to 3 seconds. But your ability to reset its cooldown was also significantly nerfed. Overall, I'd say this is a significant nerf to this skill. Flame Shield's damage was almost doubled. Ice Blades has a longer cooldown now and deals less damage, plus your ability to reduce its cooldown was cut in half. Your ability to apply Ice Armor's cooldown reduction to other skills was also massively nerfed. Instead of applying 50% of its cooldown to other skills, only 20% is being applied to other skills now. In short, the Sorcerer builds that revolved around massive cooldown reduction have taken a heavy hit, to say the least. Ice Blade's enchantment slot was also cut in half. Hydra has had its duration lowered from 12 to 10 seconds, and its damage reduced from 30% to 12%. Huge nerf and warranted. Hydra was way overperforming. It's a skill that you plop down and it keeps dealing consistent damage while you can focus on dodging attacks or piling on your own damage. Meteor's damage was increased from 50% to 80%, and its enchantment slot effect went from a 3% chance on lucky hit to an 8% chance. Ball Lightning had its lucky hit chance gutted from 20% down to 5%. Deep Freeze, the Frost Wizard ultimate, had its damage doubled. Align the Elements was seriously nerfed. You used to gain 15% damage reduction against elites for each second you haven't taken damage from one, stacking up to 50% damage reduction. That means it would take only 3.5 seconds of not taking damage to gain 50% damage reduction. That's pretty feasible in a boss fight. Now you gain only 3% damage reduction per second, up to 40% max. it would take over 13 seconds to reach the 40%. That's just not going to happen. In 3.5 seconds, you'd have only 10.5% damage reduction. The protection passive that grants barrier now only does it for 2 seconds instead of 5. This is a significant nerf and turns this into an oh crap emergency button to survive one hit rather than something that you can maintain good uptime on. I believe when I played Sorcerer in the endgame beta, this was in effect and it did feel fine. It made me have to actually think about when I wanted to use my cooldowns to keep my barrier up. For Rogue, Enhanced Penetrating Shot had its bonus damage halved. The cooldown reduction granted by Advanced Twisting Blades was heavily nerfed, from 1 second per enemy down to 0.25 seconds per enemy. Subverting Stealth's Vulnerable now lasts 6 seconds instead of 3. Countering Dark Shroud, which grants increased crit chance, will be a lot more difficult to maintain, since you now need at least 4 active shadows instead of just 2, and the skill itself only summons 5 shadows. But Subverting Dark Shroud has had its move speed increased to 4% per Dark Shroud, up from 3%, meaning at 5 shadows that's 20% faster move speed instead of 15. I played Rogue last night and I really liked Subverting Dark Shroud. All the imbuements had their cooldown increased from 9 to 13 seconds. Imbuements are really strong, so I get it. In the previous beta, between the low cooldown of imbues and the ability to reduce their cooldown further, you would basically always have your imbues up. So right now, imbues don't feel like they're in a bad place. You don't have them up constantly, but you do have a good enough uptime on them. Enhanced Shadow Imbuement had its crit strike chance reduced from 25% to 15%. Poison Imbuement had its damage increased from 70% to 100%, with Blended Poison Imbuement making crits deal 75% increased damage instead of just 30%. Poison was the weakest imbuement and Shadow was the strongest, so it seems they're trying to bring parity here, but I still get the impression that Shadow may remain the best. The passive Mending Obscurity got a nice buff, while Stealth, you gain 9% of your max life per second rather than just 3%. Precision Imbuement got a nerf though, gaining only 9% increased crit strike instead of 15%. So overall, Rogue wasn't hit too bad. I played a melee Rogue last night to level 20, and it still felt really good to play Rogue. And lastly, onto the Necromancer. Bone Splinter's damage was gutted, only 8% damage now, down from 22%. Bloodlance got a buff, 67% damage instead of 45%, but honestly, probably still not enough, given the essence cost also rose from 10 to 15%. Enhanced Bone Spear's shards were buffed from 10% to 25% damage. Corpse Explosion got a nerf, dealing only 50% damage now instead of 75%. It was a super strong skill. I just hope this nerf doesn't overcorrect. Blood Mist cooldown was increased from 20 to 24 seconds, likely just because of that synergy with the legendary that explodes corpses you pass through while in Blood Mist. The Golem's damage was cut in half, I'm surprised by that. 35% damage down to 17% damage. Skeletal Mage Mastery and Golem Mastery passives were buffed significantly though, increasing the life and damage of Skeletal Mages and Golem. But Death's Defense was nerfed. Previously, minions could not lose more than 25% of their max life from a single damage source. Now it's only 45%. And not in the patch notes, but it seems skeletal minions overall die a lot faster and need to be resummoned more often. And I'm seeing a lot of pushback from the community on this, with people saying that they need to be resummoned basically constantly now, saying that it's a chore to keep the skeletons up. I see footage of people going into a boss fight and their skeletons basically dying immediately. And I'm hearing stories of people that are putting points into literally everything they can to keep the skeletons alive, and it's not helping. Now, my understanding is that the change that Blizzard made to the skeletons is something that can be easily tuned on their end. So if you folks overwhelmingly feel like they die too easily, Blizzard can just rotate that dial to get somewhere between where we are now and where we were last beta, where they basically never died. Overall, though, the Necromancer definitely went from being one of the most powerful classes during the previous beta weekends to now being considered almost unplayable by a lot of players. But I turn the question to you folks. How is class balance feeling now? How are the changes? What do you feel is underpowered or overpowered? Sound off in the comments. Because moving on to some other Diablo 4 news, The KFC employee and Redditor GoreDeathKill, who leaked the original KFC Diablo 4 beta promotion, has now leaked a new KFC Diablo 4 promotion. Starting May 29th and running until July 2nd, you'll be able to unlock up to 5 in-game Diablo assets exclusive to KFC with the purchase of any sandwich online. Now, buying double downs to get beta access? Sure, whatever. There are other ways to get beta access, so what if people can buy a sandwich to get it? But now, exclusive rewards that are locked behind a KFC purchase? In-game cosmetics that you can only get if you are, presumably, in the US and able to order from KFC? Oh, and now you actually have to scan a QR code that is on the back of the sandwich pouch, so people can't do the same trick that they were doing to get beta access, where they're from a different country, they VPN in to an American IP, order a sandwich, and then just don't pick it up because they're not going to travel 4,000 miles to do it, and then they get their beta access. Look, I don't care about cross promotions happening. If you were going to spend $5 on a cosmetic in the cosmetic shop, then what's wrong with also getting a sandwich out of it? Worst case, just throw out the sandwich if you don't want it, and you were willing to pay for the cosmetic anyway. But the reason I care about this is that some people, presumably, assuming this leak is true, can get access to something exclusive that other people just can't get access to no matter what. It's one thing to have cosmetics locked behind, World of Warcraft expansion. Even if I don't play Warcraft, I can buy the expansion and get the cosmetics. But for people who like to collect cosmetics, it's a little bit unfair for there to be something that some people literally cannot get access to. Still though, none of this is confirmed. This, in theory, could all be a hoax. His previous leak was legit, but maybe he's using his fame to fake something now, I don't know. We'll find out on May 29th, I suppose. And lastly for Diablo news, the Cathedral of Diablo has opened its doors to the public in an event that will run until June 11th. The Chapelle des Jésuites in Cambrai, France is a deconsecrated church that saw its last service in 1931 and was turned into an art museum in 1958. However, this hasn't stopped protesters from accusing Blizzard of Christianophobia, with a petition started by some Cambrai locals to put a stop to this exhibit. Their basic claim is the new murals are glorifying demons and the devil, that it's insulting to take a former Christian church and use it in an advertising campaign that promotes depictions of the minions of hell. The local government responded to the protesters by saying, well, there's not just demons in the murals, there's good guys fighting the demons too? I guess there's no such thing as bad publicity, right? On to some quick last Epoch news. We got a teaser trailer for patch 0.9.1, Rising Flames, coming May 25th. If you're looking for something to play before Diablo 4 releases, Last Epoch is a really solid ARPG, and while it's still in early access, it should be releasing this year, and you can definitely get enough fun out of it to tide you over until D4, and hopefully beyond. In other news, Darkest Dungeon 2 released out of early access this week to mostly positive reviews on Steam. 75% of reviews are positive. For reference, the first Darkest Dungeon has very positive reviews, 91% are positive. Some core changes were made in this sequel. Town management is basically gone, and campaigns are expected to only run about 4 to 6 hours now, so it's a much tighter game. And the game improved a lot throughout its early access, and I imagine most of the negative reviews right now are people who miss stuff from the previous game, since again, Darkest Dungeon 2 is quite different. If all you wanted was more of the same, then DD2 is not a sequel for you. But if you're open to a new direction, it seems to have become a solid game. On OpenCritic, it has a score of 82, with 92% of critics recommending the game. Do check out the launch trailer, link in the description, and definitely listen to the launch trailer to hear the awesome voice of narrator Wayne June. In other news, we got an open beta announced trailer for Street Fighter 6, which will run from May 19th through 21st and will feature 8 characters, the Battle Hub experience, and online crossplay between PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. Link in the description. And that's going to wrap up this week's video. But do be sure to have checked out last week's video in which we discussed Diablo 4's revealed horse cosmetics. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon, and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rikers Raiders for more gaming content.